All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're going to completely dismantle a false binary that honestly, most of us have been forced into our entire lives. We're unpacking some truly fascinating insights on the power of quiet people and why society's absolute obsession with being loud might actually be holding all of us back.
So let me ask you, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? Take just a second and answer that in your head. Seems like a totally straightforward question, right? Because literally from day one, society basically demands that we pick a side. You're either the loud life of the party or you're the quiet observer. Well, here's the catch. That question, it's a total trap. It forces you into this tiny, rigid little box. But who you are absolutely cannot be limited to one heavily loaded label. Being quiet is actually a choice. You can be incredibly outspoken in certain scenarios and then completely withdrawn in others, and that is totally fine. To really grasp how deep this bias goes, think about left-handedness. Back in the day, and well into the 20th century actually, left-handed people were vigorously oppressed, practically forced to write with their right hands. It's wild to think about now, but today's society operates under a very similar bias when it comes to being quiet. We treat it as if it's somehow abnormal. We relentlessly push people to be louder, making them feel like there's something wrong with their natural temperament.
Author Susan Cain points out this really fascinating historical shift that explains a lot. Back in the early 20th century, we moved away from a culture of character, which valued things like deep thought, contemplation, and quiet integrity, and we dove headfirst into a culture of personality. Suddenly, society just started blindly worshiping bold, charismatic, highly social individuals.
And this created what you could call a massive charisma bias. The press naturally hands the microphone to loud figures, think Steve Jobs, but equally transformational minds, like Bill Gates or Steve Wozniak, they often get way less spotlight just because of their quieter personalities. I mean, Wozniak even admitted he would never have become a computer expert if he hadn't been too introverted to leave his house. The loud get the microphone for sure, but the quiet often provide the essential depth.
And the craziest part? The guy who actually popularized the terms introvert and extrovert, Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, explicitly warned us against this binary trap. He literally said, there is no such thing as a pure introvert or extrovert. Such a person would be in the lunatic asylum. We all have both sides within us, we just have one that happens to be a bit more dominant.
To figure out the why behind all this, we gotta look at the biology. English psychologist Hans Isaac came up with this brilliant concept of arousal rates. This theory explains how our minds and bodies are biologically hardwired to respond to different baseline levels of stimulation. So it's not just about being shy or outgoing, it's quite literally about how your nervous system processes the world around you.
When you break that down, the picture is actually super counterintuitive. Extroverts actually have a lower baseline rate of arousal. That means they have to work harder, seeking out bold challenges, constantly being around people, just to feel stimulated. Introverts, on the other hand, have a much higher baseline arousal. Their minds are already buzzing. Their inner voices are already incredibly strong. So they seek out restorative alone time simply because they don't need all that external noise to recharge.
Which leads us to a huge misconception. People tend to think quiet means empty. But silence is not the absence of words, it's the presence of focus. Introverts are highly active when they are quiet. They have plenty to say, but they prefer purposeful silence over generating mental noise just to fill the air. Honestly, the only thing they hate more than talking about themselves is having to repeat themselves.
A lot of this misunderstanding is purely cultural. In Western culture, we kind of freak out when there's silence, right? We project our anxieties. We immediately assume someone is lonely or doubtful or that something is terribly wrong. But over in Japan, silence is correctly recognized as an essential, deeply respectful form of nonverbal communication and personal boundary.
Embracing this purposeful, focused silence has massive benefits for all of us, no matter where you fall on the spectrum. First, you listen more. The philosopher Epictetus nailed it when he said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak." Second, you avoid the trap of unnecessary gossip. Third, you actually get to pause and observe. As the Japanese proverb goes, to fill a cup of tea, you must empty it first. Fourth, you start learning from diverse voices. And finally, silence gives you the space to know and accept your true inner self.
But here's the thing. For quiet people to actually feel comfortable using their powerful voices, the environment has to be right. Google did some groundbreaking research on this, and it all boils down to psychological safety. This is the absolute foundation of any successful team.
It means people feel totally 100% safe to express what they really think without any looming fear of being ignored, criticized, or attacked. So how do we actually build that safety in the real world? It takes two core practices. Number one is conversational turn-taking. This basically just means structurally ensuring everyone gets to speak, which massively cuts down on the interruptions that usually unfairly silence women and minorities. And number two is social sensitivity. This is that emotional intelligence you need to read a room's nonverbal cues and understand the subtle, vital nuances of silence.
When you actually establish this safety, the results are kind of mind-blowing. Research by Adam Grant shows that introverted leaders often deliver better outcomes than extroverted ones. No way, right? But it's true, because instead of getting overly excited and overshadowing the team with her own stamp on things, introverted leaders step back. They create space. They let their employees truly run with their own brilliant ideas.
So let's get to the solution. Here are 5 ways to give room to quiet people.
Here is your actionable toolkit. 1. Implement a strict no interruptions, one voice at a time rule. 2. Ask for feedback in advance. Follow LinkedIn's lead with their Quiet Ambassadors program and send out meeting notes early so processors have time to prepare. 3. Use physical space wisely. Ditch the purely open plan office and balance it out with private areas. 4. Actively recover the value of silence. Challenge yourself not to speak first in your next meeting. And 5. Get rid of the binary approach altogether. Avoid the labels and just collaborate.
Because really, that's the ultimate goal of our explainer today. We desperately need organizations to stop letting extrovert-centric rules inadvertently bully introverts just because they choose silence. We have to actively weave both quiet and loud dynamics together into a culture of true belonging, where everyone feels completely welcome exactly as they are.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Silence is a space. It allows the presence of everything else to become visible. So whether you're someone who naturally shouts your ideas from the rooftops or you prefer to quietly observe from the back of the room, how will you use the power of silence to invite the unexpected today?